Hey, Ethan Sawyer, college essay guy here. I've spent the last, 10, 12 years thinking about college essays, and I boiled down some of my most useful tips in this video. And at the end, I'm gonna share with you 2 exercises that I feel like can help get you started and set on the right path. So check it out. Number 1, don't spend too much time obsessing over which Common App prompt to choose. So I see students doing this a lot. They'll look at the different prompts and they'll be like, and they'll start obsessing over should I choose prompt 3 or prompt 4? And I think that's actually not a great idea for a couple reasons. First of all, college admissions readers don't super care when it comes to the personal statement which prompt you choose. They don't care if you're choosing 3 or 4. What they're interested in knowing is, number 1, can you write? And number 2, will you make valuable contributions to their campus? And if you can answer those questions, you're doing great. If you're really, really wanting a prompt, I love the prompt, describe the world you come from and how it's shaped your dreams and aspirations. And the exercises that I'll talk about at the end will help you answer that prompt. Second, and this is maybe the more important reason, thinking too much about the prompt kind of puts you in the headspace of what this mythical they want. And thinking about that to me is kind of like trying to get, dressed for the day, and you're picking out a shirt and you're like, should I wear a blue shirt? Because statistically more people like blue. I don't actually know if that's true, by the way. Or should I wear a red shirt? Because that's more like me. And so thinking about they, I think is problematic. The exercise that I'll talk to you about at the end will help get you more inwardly focused and focused on what you have to bring to the table. Consider being vulnerable in your personal statement. And what do I mean by vulnerable? I just mean that once the reader has finished with your personal statement, they should not only know more about you, but they should actually feel closer to you. Now, you might be wondering, do I have to be vulnerable if I'm gonna write a great essay? Is that a requirement? Not necessarily. Having said that, some of the most amazing essays that I've read do have a quality of what I would call vulnerable. And there are actually many different ways of being vulnerable. So the first way is, for example, to reveal something about yourself that you feel like you might be judged for. Some students in the past have written about mistakes that they've made, or things that they wish they could have taken back, or details about their family that they feel might be stigmatized. And that's sort of the most common way. But there are other ways to be vulnerable. For example, if you revealed something about yourself that is in conflict with another part of yourself. So let's say, for example, you really enjoy stability and you love routine and you have a bunch of Post-its, or you've got a color-coded organizer. That could show certain values, things that are important to you, but you could also reveal that there are ways that you're interested in spontaneity and adventure. And these 2 things don't necessarily, work perfectly. Sometimes these come into tension. That's what I'd call a productive tension. And then maybe at the end of the essay, you don't tie it up with a neat little bow. You end up sort of leaving some of that ambiguity. That can be vulnerable, especially to not wrap things up in a neat little bow at the end of your essay. A third way to do it, and this is one of my favorite ways, is to just geek out on something that you're a huge fan of. So if you love applied math, talk to me about what it's like seeing the world through applied math or through physics, or how is the world all able to connect back to chess or cupcakes or this thing that you love that maybe not everybody else loves, and maybe you feel some type of way about that. But vulnerability isn't the only thing that I think you need to do in your essay. I think you should also illuminate. In other words, give us insight. And another term that I use for insight is so what moments. So how do you do this? Basically, create an image or give us an example in your personal statement that shows some of your personal qualities. Well, one student that I knew loved taking apart things in his garage. And the so what moment was because I believe that changing the threads on the stitching of the seats can add a personal touch and change a generic product into a personalized work of art. So suddenly I go, oh, now I get another value of that. Aesthetic attention to detail is super important to you as well. The examples you give are going to show that you're able to be a visual storyteller, able to be creative, but those insights, those so what moments, are going to show you're a critical thinker. And I think it's really important to be both. Next, engage the reader's imagination using all 5 senses. So what do I mean by this? The biggest photograph is that of my family, sitting in front of the fireplace, drinking my brother's hot cocoa, and listening to the pitter-patter of rain outside our window. Now just listen to those awesome details. So she says the biggest photograph, of course, is that of my family. So we can kind of go, okay, the biggest photograph, obviously your family's important to her. The biggest photograph is that of my family sitting in front of the fireplace. So now we got the fireplace, and we see and we can feel that warmth of the fireplace. And she says, drinking my brother's hot cocoa, which gives us smell and gives us taste. And then she says, and listening to the pitter patter of rain outside our window. So we're puts us in the environment with her family, huddled in front of that fireplace. And the 3 details that she mentions, the fireplace, brother's hot cocoa, and the sound of rain, were all things that were in her essence objects box, which I'll talk to you in a minute about. The ending of your essay should feel surprising, but inevitable. What do I mean by that? Well, there should be something at the end that's somewhat unexpected, but it shouldn't be so unexpected that it feels random. It should have some quality of inevitability, like we sort of saw it coming, like every great movie we've ever seen. To give you an example, let's say the ending of your essay is like, you want to become a doctor. Well, don't say that in like a thesis at the start of your essay, because that's going to make for a really boring essay, right? If you say, I've always wanted to become a doctor, in fact, all my family were doctors, and I really loved anatomy class, and I volunteered at a hospital, and that's why I want to become a doctor. It's like, yeah, we know that because you said it at the start, right? Instead, surprise us. So another student, the one that I mentioned who took things apart with his hands, said, as a kid, I was always curious. And I really loved taking things apart with my hands. And I also love helping others. And I'm attentive to aesthetic details. And I also love math. And then he says, you may think I want to be an engineer, which is kind of where that was headed, but actually I want to become a dentist. And in some ways, all of these qualities, curiosity, helping others, working with hands, attention to detail, will serve me in that future. If it, on the other hand, feels like it's too obvious, like, oh, they knew exactly where I was going, then you'll need to pull out some of those obvious details that lead to your ending. I'm a big believer that your pre-work shouldn't feel like pre-work. Like when you're beginning those exercises to start your application, that's the actual work of the application. And here are my 2 favorite exercises for starting your application. The first one's called the Essence Objects exercise, and it only takes like 12 minutes, and you can find how to do it in the link below this video. It involves coming up with your essence objects. So what is an essence object? Well, it's a term I made up that basically involves imagining in your head a box with these objects, each of which represents an important memory, an important relationship, or an important quality in your life. Let me share with you one of my essence objects. So I have on my wrist 2 bracelets, and I'll tell you about one of them. This is a friendship bracelet that my wife gave me. She gives me a friendship bracelet every year on my birthday. And to me, it represents our connection. She is indeed my best friend. She basically weaves it for me every year and like ties it on my wrist. And I can't help but feel like when she's tying this friendship bracelet on that like we are remaking our connection. Another one would be like a North Carolina basketball that represents my connection to my dad. Growing up, he played a lot of basketball with me, so that was like his love for me. For you, it might be like a microphone, because that represents your connection to singing. Or it could be like a food that reminds you of your grandmother. For me, that would be like pork chops and lima beans. So in this exercise, which like I said, takes like 10 minutes, you basically create what I call like a menu of potential essay topics. And they're useful for describing the world you come from. Because I really feel like your personal statement should give a sense of the world you come from and how those have shaped your dreams and aspirations. So in terms of your dreams and aspirations, this next exercise, the values exercise, is going to help you get in touch with what's important to you and why it's important to you and how it manifests in your life. So the values exercise, which you can also find in the link below, basically involves choosing your top 10 values in like 3 to 4 minutes, and then giving a quick example, at least in your mind, of how that value manifests itself in your life. Having a sense of what values will carry with you into the future can actually be really useful and really empowering. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give me a little like, a little thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. You can subscribe for more videos. You can also find a link to my free guide to the personal statement below. And for more, go to collegeessayguide.com. Thanks.